In my earlier video on the mysticism of Siddha and Ayurveda herbs, I talked about the ethno-botanical significance of plants. I just want to focus attention in this video on the importance of ethno-botanical mythology. Ethno-botanical mythology is very important, and unfortunately we don't practice ethno-botanical mythology in life or even in academic discussions. What do I mean by ethno-botanical mythology? Every plant, for that matter, whether it is in India or in Europe or anywhere else in the world, or Africa including, they are living beings. They came to the earth plane before human beings came here and started living here. And they are high beings who decided to help the human beings. That's why they just take poison and live off of poison. For instance, the plants take carbon dioxide and then thrive with that. And they are so dedicated, these beings are dedicated to human life and the preservation of human life. They are not only just food sources, but also they have medicinal properties to heal the diseases of people. But we do not pay attention to the beings. And I began to, know about it. I knew about it for some time, but not extensively until, say, for a year. And it all happened when I started pouring my attention on Agastya. Agastya is said to be the father of all the herbs in all galaxies. And he has a light body, and with that body he goes everywhere. And he teaches even the gods and goddesses about the properties of, in different galaxies as well, the properties of the herbs. Let me tell you a very interesting story. I think I briefly mentioned it in my earlier video. So I also want you to look at that. About a few months ago, and I was in India, a particular plant was revealed to me by Agastya. And the plant is called, in Tamil, Nitya Kalyani. Means an evergreen, ever auspicious plant, which is considered as a woman, an ever auspicious bride. This part I have mentioned in my earlier video. Now I'm going to show you that plant here. And this is the plant. It is called periwinkle. And when this plant was introduced to me, it was not just as a plant. It was introduced to me as, it was actually the essence of the plant was put inside, which lies in the root. And the root was identified. You just cannot go and pick up any root. You have to go and select the root which goes in a certain direction. The roots go in different directions, but you have to go and take the root. And before collecting the root, what you do is you do the ceremony to the plant. And in the ceremony, the person prays to the plant, I'm going to kill you, and it will be a sacrifice on your part, and then treat it like a person, and then gets the consent of this herb, and then this is quite a big process involving a ceremony. And after that, he will have to go and dig up many plants and to find out the root that goes in a certain direction. It could be north or south or east or west. And then he does chants to empower the roots. There is a chants that make the roots powerful. These are some phonemes that are mantras that are chanted to the root. And then after that, they give this. They put this in a bracelet like this, and I have this bracelet. This is one of the 54 herbs inside this bracelet. Now, what happens? What is the difference between the herb and the plant? This herb in it is very powerful, more than the plant. The way to create, to preserve it involves methodologies which are kept secret by those people who are involved in harvesting the plant for spiritual purposes, more than medical use. So this herb is the goddess of the herb, periwinkle, lives here and she will live forever. And why is it that so important that I am talking about periwinkle? Because recently, after I started using this herb, the herb was talking to me and then said, "Do you know about my secret?" Here it is a constant revelation that is happening. I am the one who is inside the vinblastine. Vinblastine is an alkaloid compound that is used in chemotherapy. This vinblastine goes and kills the cancer cells. There's a lot I want to talk about it, how they found about the vinblastine from this plant. So I'm not going to go into that. If you want to go and do your own research, you're welcome to do that. It's a very fascinating one. The reason why I'm saying this is the plants are important, more important than the derivatives from the plant, like the chemicals, the chemical properties. Even more important is the goddess behind the herb. For instance, after I started working with the goddess, I just went and picked up different kinds of periwinkle. There is Vinca minor, which is a shorter planet than the Vinca major. Vinca minor and Vinca major are both belong to the periwinkle family. It's an amazing herb. It is an amazing herb. To work with the goddess is even more important. So I may seem, to be very strange and stupid by rational and scientific standards, but then I have to be true to the ethno Ethno-Botanical Mythology. And after all, you know that the plants have a life. They are living beings. But they can also understand your thought process. Now there are, and I recommend you to go and look at videos by Dr. Cleve Davis, and then he talks to the plants as well. As a matter of fact, I just remember that Wordsworth was able to communicate with Periwinkle. You know, you just say Wordsworth and Periwinkle, you know. He was a nature poet. And he also said, one impulse from a vernal wood can teach more of man than all sages can. This is Wordsworth. One impulse from the vernal wood can teach all of men more than all the sages can. And Rousseau also was in touch with the Periwinkle, and you can go on and on and on. But Agastya said, you know, this is one of the things that you should work with, because you have a relationship with this plant. Then I began to understand, because I've always been obsessed with finding a cure for cancer, because my father died of cancer and he had a very, very painful death. And now, then only later on I began to know that vinblastine, which is the alkaloid that's being used to kill the cancer cells, was mysteriously discovered under strange circumstances. I want you to go and do the research for yourself. Now, the goddess behind the herb is very important. And traditional Siddha medicine is older than Ayurveda medicine, because it perfected Ayurveda in the latter day Siddhas perfected Ayurveda, and then it became the Siddha medicine. And they are very particular about, I'm not putting down Ayurveda at all. Ayurveda is a great medicine, and then they overlap each other too. Okay. Now, nobody practices Ayurveda or Siddha. They all talk about the goddess and the mantras behind that make these herbs powerful. Because it is very difficult, because I'll tell you why. If you want a medicine from, say, periwinkle, because the leaf can be used as well, as it is in, I think it is in Jamaica, where they use tea out of it, and then the flowers are used, and then the roots are also used for medicinal purposes in traditional culture. It's also available in Africa, so it's called sometimes the Madagascar periwinkle or plant. They all had traditional use, but no one knew about the goddess and the importance to pray to the goddess and ask the goddess to sacrifice on behalf of you, so that the plant can live, the plant's power can live in the chemicals. That's a great concept. The reason I started out talking about why it cannot be practiced as they were initially practiced by the yogis and rishis, for instance. You want a cancer medicine from periwinkle, and it has to be custom made for you. That's very, very difficult. That means they have to match your energy with the energy of the plant. The energy of the plant keeps changing on a daily basis. They have to match it for your energy, and then go and harvest the plant. That means it's a very expensive proposition. So you have to employ someone who studies your energy, by looking at your own star, birth star and horoscope, etc. And also he has to wait for the right time for the planet to have the energy that is right for you. And then you should start doing all these ceremonies and then get the plant, chant the mantras that are good for you. And then that means you cannot commercially produce it. So that's the reason why even in traditional Ayurveda and Siddha they have dropped all that. I don't blame them, but then there are ways of doing it in a differently, more or less following the rules prescribed by the Siddhas and Rishis of Ayurveda, and still keep the power of the goddess with to stay in the chemical. Now, I started Nambu Botanicals especially for this reason. I have compromised, there's no doubt about it, because it's being commercialized. So, but when I compromised, I did not compromise one factor at least, that is the phoneme for the plant, which keeps the energy, because the sounds don't die. That's why they are called deathless. The sounds are deathless. Akshara. They have the ability not to die. When they die, they lose their energy. So I made it a point that all these things have to be, at least this sound element has to be kept alive within the herbal powder which is inside, so that a person who uses it also gets the benefit of it. So that I did not want to compromise. But down the road, I will, as Nambu Botanical grows, then we will be able to incorporate more elements prescribed by the Siddhas and Yogis to keep the herbs potent. Now, I want to talk about two herbs which have become very popular in our century, and one is all over the world. One is the turmeric. Go everywhere, turmeric is there. Every herbal shop, there is turmeric. And it is also, there has been tremendous amount of research done on turmeric, from cancer to infection and all kinds of things. That I'm not going to get into the medical research, or you can go and do your own research. But since I'm more an ethno-botanical mythologist, I would focus attention only on turmeric and another herb, which is the holy basil. The English name is the Sanskrit name is Brinda, and the Tamil name is Tulsi, or Tulasi in Tamil. Let's first talk about turmeric. And turmeric is used in for so many ceremonies, religious ceremonies. So they put turmeric water and bathe a particular god or goddess, and then they drink the turmeric water, as a medicine. This is done even today, even in temples in America. You can see that happening. when they pour the turmeric water on the deity and then they drink it. It has tremendous amount of healing power. It is even today practiced. And it is also practiced on all auspicious occasions. And when people get married, the woman gets a turmeric root to replace the ring, because the turmeric functions as a spiritual symbol. It's just not a dead symbol, it's a very live symbol to keep the relationship to go on. So the turmeric is also a relationship herb. So that is the one that can help about at least 20-30 ailments. They are all found in both Ayurvedic and Siddha literature. The most important thing that I have done is just to empower it with phonemes, so that the power is not lost. Even after the herb is harvested and turned into powder, the powder carries the power because of the phonemes. And I didn't want to compromise on that. At least that much I can do. The other one is Tulsi, or with the holy basil, which they call the love and grace. How it carries the love and grace label on Nambu Botanicals. And that's, I have elsewhere told the story, I'm not going to repeat it. It promotes love. It promotes conjugal love. It also is a symbol of gender relationship and fidelity. And fidelity is the important theme. So because it's very important herb for relationship and love in the 21st century, where there is constant problem between men and women in keeping up old values like chastity, fidelity, and being confined to one partner. All these things are obsolete these days. But this herb is a promoter of this, because the goddess behind it is Brinda, who became the plant. And then we made sure, again, that the power is preserved within the powder by giving the appropriate phonemes. The phonemes were selected by me and then and given to these two plants. And then as we go along, I'll talk more about other herbs that we are planning to do. And this is my favorite one. What I can do is, because cancer is a concern for most people, especially when you are growing old, because the immune system is not that strong, everyone is prone to cancer. And when I hold this plant, I can see the power of the goddess and her willingness to help us. So we are going to also in the future produce some, I have not decided what to do with this, and then we definitely would have periwinkle included in a Nambu botanical list. And in the meantime, you can buy this. It's very inexpensive thing, plant that's available in the summertime, and then I just keep it in my bedroom so that I can be friends with her and then get her energy. And then this is one that can give you a lot of health benefits. God bless.